Modern-day slavery is real. Recruiting other persons through coercion, fraud, or force for exploitation is termed human trafficking. On the show today, we explore the legal regime around this heinous crime. Don't go away. This is Law Express. My name is Noella Seidu.
Richard Kwame Odu-Mensah is a private legal practitioner. In his leisure time, he enjoys playing lawn tennis. Nana Wache Mensah Bonsu is a private legal practitioner who loves to play video games and watch movies in his free time. Noella Seidu, she's a private legal practitioner and a consistent member of our 3-lawyer panel on the show every week. She also doubles as the host of the show. She likes to play tennis and read.
Human trafficking is one of the growing crimes that is occurring, and it has both domestic and international dimension. In fact, it is an international crime, and because of that, we have international protocols and conventions to deal with it in terms of international sphere. In Ghana, because human trafficking is a growing crime, we have also made laws to deal with human trafficking. And our main law is the Human Trafficking Act, which was passed somewhere around 2006 and has been amended in 2009. And there are 3 important things when it comes to human trafficking. What we are saying is that, 1, somebody has been recruited or transported, or somebody is harboring another human person and has used means of deception, fraud, sometimes force or coercion to receive or harbor that person. And the important thing is that they are exploiting that person. There are people who are exploiting people in terms of prostitution, so many ways. And so because it's a growing crime, it offends the dignity of a person to be exploited by the use of force. We have made laws that prohibit human trafficking in Ghana. And so we are looking at it in that sphere. Yeah. Human trafficking is a crime, and we want to educate people on that aspect as well.
Yeah. So one interesting factor to consider is the fact that it's not limited to age. That is to say that the victims of human trafficking actually ranges from being children to adults. Yeah, and we are faced with a situation all over the world, including here in Ghana, where we have some children being trafficked, and we actually have a lot of women being trafficked for prostitution. Now, my brother mentioned the governing laws. We also have what we refer to as a legislative instrument, which also governs the human trafficking regulations or crime in Ghana, which is LI 2219 in addition to that.
And the law is trying to capture all aspects of the crime. There are people, if you look at some of the cases, who are into recruitment. They deceive people and tell them, well, let's take you to this country. Yeah. I'm going to get you a job, or this person is going to get you a job. And there are people whose business
so
is
they come out like an agency trying to help you.
Yes. And so they recruit people. Some people are also involved in the business of transportation. So when you are recruited, then they will transport you to another country. Some will have to then harbor you or host you in another person's country.
And somebody's receiving you.
Somebody's receiving you.
So it's a whole cartel.
It's a whole cartel.
Yes.
Then somebody will actually use you or exploit you for their benefit. And so it's a different aspect, and that the law seeks to capture all of these aspects of the crime.
As much as possible.
As much.
When you take a look at it, I mean, you understand that most people who are engaged in this crime are more or less a criminal syndicate. So they work in circles. So as my learned colleague was pointing out, in terms of the recruitment, some may not necessarily inform you that they are taking you to, say, country A or Ghana for work, but they may meet the relatives of younger persons and actually inform them that, let me take charge of your child. I will educate your child. I will send the person to school. I just need a bit of help in my house. The next thing you realize, the child is no longer in the country they expected the child to be, and could end up in Ghana, it could end up anywhere, and being given out to people who either exploit them for sex or actually use them as laborers in their workplaces. So the main problem here is how the syndicates work, and it takes a lot of investigation to actually even
because it's just too many people within
too many
that
people,
chain.
yes, within the chain.
But let's start from the recruitment bit. You hinted on coercion. You hinted on deception.
Yeah.
Where you lie that you're going to help the person get a job or help support the person through education, and you change it. Then we have the abduction bit, where you just forcefully take this person away, and there's the abuse of power. So if, for instance, you go to see somebody's relative and the person is not even consulted, you are using that, your influence over this child or adult or whoever it is, to take a decision about the person's life and how the person uses his or her labor.
And then if you look at some of the cases that have been recorded, a lot borders on deception. Because the person tells you, I'm going to use it for these purposes, you naturally will not go.
Yeah.
And these are persons you trust. I have somebody who is in Ghana or Nigeria and who can get you a job. One of the cases that I read says that the person was a makeup artist in Nigeria. And a friend says, oh, I know somebody who needs a makeup artist in Ghana. And so we can connect. He connects, transports the person to Ghana. And the business is not makeup. It's prostitution.
So I think it feeds off vulnerability and desperation. So either you're desperate for a job to earn an honest living, or they see that you're vulnerable, you can take decisions, you're not exposed, you are probably sick, in need, maybe an orphan. So it feeds off these things.
The search for greener pastures also is one of the reasons why most people in Africa fall victim to this. And people are sent or taken from Africa and they end up in the west part of Europe, Italy, and other places where they are actually trafficked for sex and all of that. So I think that's a factor. And the vulnerability aspect is something that cannot be downplayed, because there's always that power chain between the adult and the younger person, or the guardian and the child, and which is one of the reasons why most children are also trafficked, actually.
There's another bit we are losing sight of, and that is giving or receiving payments and benefits to achieve consent. So in this case, there is actually some consent, either from the victim, him or herself, or from somebody who has authority over the victim. Now, you induce them by giving some money or some other benefits or payments in whatever way, cash, kind, services, anything. And you lead them to a point where they can say no to you by virtue of that exchange. It still doesn't discount or invalidate the fact that this is still criminal conduct.
I mean, a lot of domestic human trafficking in Ghana, I mean, falls under this category where, and especially when it comes to kids who are exploited for fishing or farming purposes in certain parts of the country. Because of poverty, unfortunately in Ghana, I mean, in Africa, poverty is right, isn't it? So, I mean, for a small amount of money, parents will be willing to give out their child.
Maybe in hopes that the kids will be better off with somebody who is financially stronger.
But you don't know what the person is going to use. The person will give, I mean...
That's where the hope component comes in.
Sometimes the parents do know what is going to happen, or the guardian actually does know, but the person who is actually the victim is not told that this is why we are sending you there, because he may be told, and for that your uncle is coming for you.
Yeah.
The person will be introduced to the child as the uncle or the auntie, and the person ends up with this uncle and auntie, and then it turns out that what was assured the person is not what the person is receiving.
Let's talk about exploitation within the context of human trafficking. Nana Boakye already mentioned the fact that mostly these people are used for sexual exploitation. They're exploited in that manner. So we're looking at a situation where you either are pimped away in exchange for money,
Yep.
so or you are put in a situation where does sex always have to be like what everybody anticipates it to be? So such that if you, for instance, are made a pole dancer or a stripper, is that still sexual exploitation within the context of
A lot of human
Yeah.
trafficking, aside children, I mean, majority of the crimes are involving women.
yes?
I mean, I hardly do I see, of course, men.
There will be men mostly for. So when it comes to sexual exploitation, it's probably more women
Yes.
than men.
Men.
But when it comes to labor,
More men
more men
than women.
And but I mean, most of the cases, you realize that a lot of women are trafficked, and they end up in being used.
should we say women have a lot, enormous value comparatively?
Of course,
Of course.
of course, and I
Thank
agree
you
with
for
that.
agreeing.
I agree with that, and you realize that unfortunately, those importance are exploited by people. I mean, and so you realize that a lot of women are target for
Let's
for
make it
this.
more practical.
The essence of the exploitation is for the person who is actually employing these victims as his labor force or slave. It's income.
Yeah.
So basically, if you take a critical look at it, the question is, can this person bring the offender income? If the answer is yes, then they will use the person for whatever venture they want to use the person for. So bear in mind that it may not necessarily be prostitution. Yes, some of these ladies are actually forced in some countries to work as labor force in people's houses.
So domestic.
To domestic
workers, yeah.
workers. But as a domestic worker, they are not paid a single dime. All the money they will be receiving from that labor goes to the person who is supposedly their supervisor. And he earns the living, and then he determines how much you hand out to these people. Because they are in a foreign land and mostly they are handicapped, they have no option than to comply.
Sometimes with language barriers.
Language
as well.
barrier also.
And of course, by this time, you're likely not to have a work permit or residential permit.
Exactly.
Your passport is taken away from you. You cannot leave. And some of these countries, their laws don't protect some of these domestic workers. They see you as slaves.
Yeah.
So it becomes a problem. And some of these, as I said, some of these things, Ghanaians have been victims of this. Other citizens of many countries have been trafficked into
It's a
Ghana.
universal thing. And you see, the more we focus on the cross-border aspect, we forget that it's more rife in countries than it is outside.
Yeah.
You know, the risk in trying to transport people abroad, the cost involved makes it really hard. Like less likely in terms of the data compared to moving somebody from, say, north to south and other parts. And, you know, the scrutiny is not as much. You do not need a visa to travel within countries, but you might need a visa to travel outside your country. You would need a passport. So in going through all those processes, you're likely to know that at least you're about to travel abroad. But with the local movement, you just are called up by somebody who says, look, I am an agency and I'm looking for domestic workers or nannies. And next thing you know, you're being exploited for something else.
Yeah.
Another aspect we are omitting is being trafficked for your body parts, for your organs.
It's another developing area that is happening.
It's quite original now.
People need kidneys and portions of human body.
Almost everybody part now.
Yes,
can be transplanted.
Can be removed and fixed in somebody's body.
And
sometimes
so
you're not even told. Say you're going to, as I said, they'll say they're going to give you a job. By the time I realize you are in a hospital, you are woken up and parts of your body have been removed.
But even if you are told that you are going to this country to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and you actually get there and you are still doing the job, but you realize that you don't have freedom to do anything and you are not being paid for it, at that point you've been trafficked.
That's very valid. I mean, and as you mentioned, it's something which is prevalent intra and regional.
Yes.
I would say regional because the very moment we make it easy for people to move between some country blocks,
yes,
such as the West African bloc or under the Eastern African bloc, it's easier for people to actually traffic human beings within these areas because when moving from Ghana to Nigeria, the person doesn't really need to go through the scrutiny they will have to go through when they move outside to Europe and other regions. So yes, it's prevalent regionally and also locally. Yeah.
Another angle is to also see it in the sense that a lot of Ghanaians would like to travel. That mentality that you want to travel, you have to travel.
The grass is greener
outside.
And it doesn't even matter what I'm going there to do.
Fair.
Anywhere else but home.
And this criminal syndicate exploit that. I mean, if I say I'm taking you to US, I'm going to give you a job.
They are mostly they even pay for it.
Yeah.
So they aid the trafficking process unknowingly.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, a lot of Ghanaians have ended up in Russia fighting the Ukraine war.
Really?
Yes. And the idea was that we are taking you to Russia to get you a job.
That's a job.
No, but that's not the job.
That's the job they signed up for. If they tell you are going to end up in the Ukraine war, you will not travel.
Maybe there are some people who would still want to go.
But they don't tell them. They say I'll take you to Russia for a job. And there are agents who recruit. Not many Ghanaians have been recruited. By the time you realize you're in Russia, you'll be taken to the war zone, the forefront, not even at the back. And there have been so many videos online. And this is a clear example because the idea is that you want to travel, and many Ghanaians would want to travel, and they are exploiting that.
And it's because of the nature of this crime that there's a duty on each and every one of us who hears about human trafficking or suspect that somebody is actually trafficking persons in or out of this country to report to the authorities or the relevant authorities. Because if we do not do that, we have a situation where it could even be your relative. The person will be migrated without the person's consent. The duty is quite important.
Where trafficking has to do with a child, consent does not play a role. Consent of a parent, a guardian, or some other adult to the circumstances of the trafficking is not sufficient to invalidate the fact that this crime has occurred.
Yeah.
We'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll pick it up right from this point.
Observe that when one actually engages in trafficking, the law provides a very stiff punishment for it. So if you are caught trafficking, you are likely to face not less than 5 years in prison. So you could have 5 years or more, depending on the circumstance of the case.
And your level of involvement.
And your level of involvement also. So for instance, if your level of involvement wasn't so much, perhaps the judge may consider that and give you the minimum 5 years.
Or even mitigate it.
Or mitigate
lower,
it.
depending on,
Yeah.
you know.
But then when you are involved to the extent that you may be the mastermind and all of that, rest assured, you may not see the blue skies in a very long time.
Actually even going for life. Because if you traffic for organs,
yes,
it's possible that you have killed people in the process. So you could go in for life.
Yeah. And that shows how serious we take human trafficking.
So let's look at the ways, the aspects of trafficking that has to do with either the movement of the people or the, should I say, harboring of the people. So you're looking at placement for sale. So the act identifies or recognizes the fact that actively it could just be human trading.
Yes.
So almost like the olden day slavery, clear-cut situation. You take the person, you sell the person to another person, and then you take your money. So there's also the bonded placement, where you kind of bond the person almost without the person having the option to negotiate anything.
Yeah.
So you've taken the person to another country, you tell her, look, you're going to help in a domestic space. The moment they get there, their passports are taken. They can't move out of the house. Probably they are relegated to the basement. You're not even allowed to come out for sunlight. You don't get any payments, and you do not know how you can even terminate this arrangement. But somebody else is collecting the benefits of your labor.
So for some of the bonded placements, you observe that sometimes they tell these ladies or persons that you need to work for a number of years
before
you'll be free to leave.
And you're never able to pay until they are tired of you.
Exactly.
And then there's a temporary placement where, yes, you're still in motion, but at this point, maybe you're just somewhere. They are moving you to the west, but for now, you are around Accra in Abokobi, waiting for the day. So that could be, but it's still part of the chain of events that have to do with trafficking. Then we look at placement as service, where exploitation by someone else is the motivating factor. So with this, I think you just put the person in a vulnerable space for others to use them, right?
The point about human trafficking is that it involves so many people.
And so many ways.
Yes. And so if you look at most of the courts, the charges that have happened, usually it's more than one person who is charged, because somebody is recruiting, somebody is harboring, temporary or permanently.
Somebody is transporting.
Somebody
even consented.
Yeah.
Somebody is using at the end change, who is utilizing the person. So all of these persons are all involved. And one thing I like about the law is that the law even talks about the fact that the one who provides somebody to be trafficked can also be charged.
And it doesn't matter even if that is your parent.
Yeah.
So if you volunteer somebody as a parent, you give out your child or your daughter, somebody to be exploited, you, the one giving up that person, can also be charged.
Do you know what it comes to mind readily? So there will be this auntie in the community who is so popular, and anybody in the cities who needs a house help comes to you. You might not even know you are helping to traffic people. But you can easily be caught up with this law because you're just helping, okay? You're helping other members of the community who have troubles finding reliable help at home. Now, when you consent and go to pick these kids from their families and hand them over to these people, for as long as they now contravene the arrangement and move from it being some kind of employment arrangement to trafficking, then you were the one who recruited and supplied.
So there's a thin line between being moved from help to criminal liability. Because in your mind, you think probably I just happen to be transporting the person or moving the person from the family to this host. But when they become exploitative, when the host begins to exploit, you could end up. You could end up being part of the change.
So I was going to say that if you look at the law itself, it seems to be more or less a street liability offense, rather. Yeah. There's no wiggling out of it. So if you are caught in it,
you are in it.
You are in it.
Unless you can prove that there should be some mitigation.
Yes.
By virtue of probably
whether you had knowledge of it or not, you are in it. You were part of the chain, so you are caught in it.
Let's look at the driver who is just doing his job.
Of course, if he has information, he has knowledge that, these persons are going to be exploited. He has knowledge that these people are going to end up being trafficked.
You can have constructive knowledge without actually having actual knowledge. Where, you see, if, for instance, you are a driver, you have a van, and every quarter of the year, this auntie comes from the city to pick young girls within a certain age range. 10, 6, 8 of them every quarter. Takes them away, you never see how they come back. And they always use your vehicle. Naturally, you are expected as an adult with a mind to wonder what is happening. You're expected to have asked some questions along the line.
As a reasonable person.
As a reasonable person, who cares? Because if they are picking 13 to 17-year-olds in numbers, 10 of them, and it's always the same person, moving them from one point to the other, they insist on using just your car. They move, you would even watch the demeanor of the girls. You can tell they don't know where they're going. You can't come back to say you didn't know that you were aiding and abetting in this thing.
In that case, we will say that you ought to have known.
Exactly.
And I think there have been cases where said drivers have been arrested. I mean, I'm sure if you remember, some bus owner was transporting kids from Accra to certain parts of the Upper Volta. And yes. And I mean, these are kids between 10 to 13, 14, and you're taking them to the fishing community. And you are, I mean, and it's your car. The question is that, I mean, you can't just transport
what
kids.
What explanation was given?
You ought to have, asked questions. Where are you taking the kids to? So the driver was also arrested.
Where are their parents?
Where are their parents?
No, so for most of these drivers will probably say that, well, they are just doing their work. There was no need for them to ask questions. But if you look at how the law is couched, you can't use that as an explanation to avoid the punishment. So you should have been concerned.
To say you're just doing your work is a bit funny to me and weak. Reason being that, assuming, let's just switch it up. Let's say these people were carrying dead bodies. Would you allow, in the name of I'm just doing my work, somebody to put 10 corpses in a sitting position in your car from point A to point B?
Well, with that, most people question that, but especially when they know that vehicles, there are specialized vehicles for transporting bodies.
Yeah, but the point is, why is it that in that case you would be questioning things? But in this particular instance, you assume, I mean, because you owe it to the state as a civil responsibility to look out for potential crimes so that you can report wrongdoers.
And actually, the Human Trafficking Act imposes an obligation on everybody.
Shared responsibility.
Yes,
on everyone.
To even inform the security services when you have information that this crime is occurring. In fact, it is a crime not to report. And that's a very interesting aspect of the law, that when you observe that there's a human trafficking and you know,
you can't say,
and you fail to report. This one, there's due fiasem is not everybody. It is.
You must be a busybody.
We are all involved.
That's everybody's house matter.
Yeah,
actually.
And that is one aspect of the law, so that even your failure to report a human trafficking crime itself is a crime. You could also be arrested. So you, the driver, failing to ask questions and just transporting, conduct cannot be an excuse.
So this is where the law invites us to be busybodies and to meddle away.
And it's very interesting.
Yeah. We sampled people's opinion on this topic.
Okay.
We would take a listen and then we continue with our discussion from there.
Trafficking is still a big problem in Ghana because some few years ago I heard on the news that there are children from the Volta region who have been taken away from their parents. Sometimes their parents even willingly give them out to these people because they cannot afford to take care of their children. So they give them out to these fishermen, and these children work. You see 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 5-year-old working very hard, and it's very worrying instead of them to be in school. So I think some of the signs that will show that a child is being trafficked is usually you see the expression of the child, that they are not happy with those they are with. And then when you speak to the people who are trafficking the children, you realize that these people do not give, they want to just speak fast and then go. They don't give you the answers that you want. They don't want to have a long engagement with you for you to realize what they are doing.
Yes, of course. Human trafficking is still a problem here in Ghana. When you look at the rural areas and even the urban areas, human trafficking is still ongoing. Recent news updates from the media outlets shows that it's still ongoing. And I think that it's high time the Inspector General of Police ensures that our police personnel are scrutinizing people moving in and out from our borders, in and out from our regions, in and out from our roadsides. They shouldn't just be there, inspect and go. They should do in-depth investigation about the people moving from one place to the other. Maybe the person might have probably been kidnapped without them even knowing. So there should be checks and balance and then massive scrutiny in our various barriers whenever there are police personnel available.
Issues of trafficking in Ghana still persist, though we've had some organizations that have investigated, arrested, or persecuted people and convicted them and all that, and they have been able to release a lot of people both externally and internally. We still have the problem because we have people recruiting, especially children, women, and those who are not really, they are not for themselves, they can't talk for themselves, in places like mining, agriculture, and other sectors that they are being exploited. And these are problems that is really going on, just that it is not out as compared to previously, where we always hear cases of people being trafficked, taken to other countries to go and work and all that.
Because I'm active on social media and the feedback I'm getting concerning kidnapping, I think human trafficking is still a problem in Ghana, because there have been several occasions or nuances where my TikTok For You page is now flooded with people creating content and awareness about how kidnappers are all over Ghana, and the blames tend to be shifted to Nigerians. I don't have any experience, I've not had any encounter, but the feedback I'm getting says that yes, there is a high risk in human trafficking in Ghana.
One of the gentlemen we heard spoke about the role of the police, and that really interests me because he has a relevant question, which is, what are the police doing, especially at the various checkpoints at our regions and entry points? We will notice that mostly some of these officers don't really scrutinize the people in the vehicle or those who are being moved in the vehicle. They may simply take it as a commercial vehicle moving with a lot of kids in the vehicle or a lot of ladies in the vehicle. But if they ask some questions, they may realize that there's something suspicious going on, because they are given enough power under this Human Trafficking Act and even under the Original Criminal Offences Act to arrest on suspicion of a crime.
Let's look at the practicality of something like that. You know how it is when they are doing stops on the streets. Everybody's frustrated because it slows down the traffic. Secondly, if they were to ask questions just randomly of everybody, will we ever move in the city?
Well, the police have a training, and when a policeman sees somebody is about to commit a crime, based on
Is it spiritual?
Yeah, based on their training, they're able to detect. So it's not everybody, they can't ask everybody questions.
Okay.
But based on how they observe the movement, they will have that intuition to ask some few questions about where purpose, why are you taking, why I'm going to Ghana for, what's the purpose.
Yeah.
You're looking at the borders, right?
I'm looking at the borders.
Okay.
Yes. And so they are training, and of course, human trafficking is a developing area, and more training is being done. I mean, the security service, they are being trained every day in this area because it's a growing area, and so sometimes they're able to detect some of these things.
We appreciate the fact that, in terms of practicality, it may be difficult to ask every single vehicle passing through the borders or the entry points. But then, based on their training, some vehicles, the conduct of the driver, or looking at the people in the vehicle, especially when at first sight is mostly just accept the driver and maybe the person who's sitting out front is just women or children, it should raise a lot of questions. I mean,
unless it's a school bus, of course.
Yes, of course, unless it's a school bus. Yes.
What also struck me from the discussion is that most of them understand what human trafficking is.
Yeah, somebody even dovetailed into kidnapping first,
yeah.
and then added the trafficking bit after the kidnap.
And these are things that are happening on social media, and also so many stories on social media. And if you follow social media, a lot of people have even become victims from social media because some of these adverts are done through their social media.
The fun life is advertised there,
Exactly.
and they make it look really like a walk in the park.
Yes.
It's easy with this amount of money. I can get you into this country, and you have a job and all of that until you get there.
And when people fall victims, they also use social media to tell their story. And so if you follow social media, I mean, I got to know about Ghanaians in the Russia-Ukraine war through social media when those people were in the war.
But the challenge with that is, how do you know if everything is even true?
Wow.
Because who is validating the information? Does it mean they are really in Russia? Because sometimes it gets a bit tricky because of the new media and the fact that, look, all you need is a phone and internet.
Yeah, so fake news.
There's fake news, there's propaganda.
Yeah.
It could be anything, and that's the fear with social media.
But it's a genuine fear.
Yeah.
But putting the fear aside, we can also see some of these stories and evidence that backs some of these stories.
Yeah.
Apart from that, I mean, one of the speakers also mentioned we have certain spots where we know that some of this trafficking takes place. I mean, one person talked about the water, fishing, and all those things. It appears that from research, some of these areas, agriculture areas, fishing areas, and so sometimes research has proven that some of these areas are hotspots for trafficking.
But I have come across a publication where it was proven that some of the reports about kids being used in these fishing communities wasn't really how it was. It was just people trying to raise funds in the name of their saving the children, and so they just see kids running around, catch them, or kids swimming in the water, catch them, take photos and all of that. It is not to discount the fact that yes, there are these incidents where children are used as slaves. They dive in, they help fisher folks. But then I've also seen instances where it wasn't true. It was just some entity looking to raise funds from the West in the name of we're coming to rescue children in this side. They exaggerate what is happening to justify the appeal they make. They get the money, they take photos, they parade these kids as people they've saved, and then they go back to playing their soccer.
I mean, everybody's exploiting the whole
I mean, there is some truth to what you're saying, because some of the fisher folks actually use their children for their work.
And at that point, they are learning a trade
at that point,
with their fathers.
With their parents.
So let's talk about the use of trafficked persons. It's straightforward. You don't even need to know that this was a trafficked person. Once you're using the person and it's established that he or she was trafficked, you're caught up within the meaning
so
of the
that's
law.
another interesting bit of the law. So that at the point, the person who is going to use that person.
The whole idea that you're even using is a problem.
Yeah.
It's a problem in itself.
You're the one exploiting, actually engaging in the exploitation
Yeah.
of that person.
You are benefiting from
It's
the
also
service.
a crime. And so you can also be convicted.
So you need to ask where the person came from. You need to do some due diligence about people that are rendering services to you, and make sure that you look out for the person's well-being and you are paying actually at proper rates. So the other question that comes to mind is, you have this person with you, you are paying all right, but you're paying way below the minimum wage.
It could be exploitation. So
it actually is exploitation.
Yes, but does it qualify?
In Ghana, the way our system works, there's a thin line between people who help people and
and people who use people to help themselves. Let's go for a quick break now on that note. This is Law Express. Don't go away.
So there's a thin line from moving from not liability to liability, being liable for human trafficking.
Yeah.
In our culture, where we have people come from probably in the villages to come and help you as a help in the house, when it gets to the point where it amounts to exploitation, you could be charged and convicted for human trafficking. And so we have to be very careful, especially when you are the one using that person.
Yeah.
And so you should be very careful.
Just don't use people. That's just all.
Don't exploit people for your benefit.
Well, I mean, I do agree with you. I mean, the circumstance of your case may lead you to be placed in the squares or the 4 squares of human trafficking. So it will be on a case-by-case circumstance for us to determine that. But we need to look at the fact that if you know somebody is being trafficked, you need to report.
Yeah.
You have an obligation.
Even if you suspect
it. Yeah. Yes, you have an obligation as a person, as a human being, to report. So in Ghana, there are certain institutions you may make a report to. It includes the police, we have STRAJ, social welfare, we have the legal aid board, and any reputable civil society
organization. Yeah.
Yes, of course. So I would normally recommend that if there's a police station nearby, report to the police station so the police may act readily and promptly on your complaints.
The interesting part is that if you have this information or suspicion and you refuse to alert the authorities, you also commit a crime.
And you may go in for not less than 5 years.
So just knowing that somebody is committing human trafficking alone means that you need to act.
Yeah, and that's very interesting.
I know.
very,
it's like everybody should just police the society because of how intricate this thing is. Because listen, when you cast your mind and probably just focus on how the domestic setup is for domestic labor or domestic workers, it looks like a huge number of people will be caught up in this.
Yeah.
And this is why when Ghanaians who migrate and go to the West, no matter how exposed they are, they bring domestic help, they easily fall in this situation. Yeah. Recently, a
Nigerian judge,
was caught up in, was she
Kenyan
Nigerian?
Kenyan
I don't think so. She was caught up in a similar situation. If perhaps it was in her country of origin, it wouldn't have been an issue. So. Because either we do not know enough what constitutes human trafficking, or we just think that it is normal. We become insensitive to the whole arrangement based on our cultural upbringing and the norms around us, and just generally how helpful we are as a society, such that we feel like it's a community. We should all be there for each other. We shouldn't look at money more when it comes to the domestic space. Of course, that is why women who sacrifice their time to take care of their kids are not given any compensation, because you know, you support the kids at home, your husband works outside, he brings the money, but he doesn't count your service.
That's another area
in monetary terms. Because, I mean, it's expected of you, right?
You want to take us there.
We are there already. So, easily husbands might be trafficking their wives.
No, not so.
Don't take us.
I was waiting for this reaction. I'm so happy it came up.
Don't take us there. But I think that the case that you talk about, probably we have normalized some of these things. And as I said, there's a thing like now with this law, if you want to really apply the law, this judge who was charged with this crime in UK, if he has done the same thing, in Ghana, probably it could have
who would have even reported it?
But who would have, because we have normalized it.
So what happens is, people who get to know about this and go out there as domestic staff in a bid to get citizenship, protection, and to stay, they will report it. Because at that point, they know it is not correct. Although they know in Ghana, I mean, who is reporting that in Ghana on the regular?
I think that most people may actually formalize their arrangements with their domestic staff. Have them sign some formal contracts, setting out their fees and their obligations and all that. That may actually be your saving grace when you.
No, but that is required at the point of movement. So before you get a visa, once you declare that this person is coming to work for you, the contract is a requirement.
Be in place. Yes.
So it's, you see, there's this thing where they do that just for the paperwork, but then they have another arrangement aside what they've declared to the country that they are moving to. And that's where the challenge is. So
it's a dicey situation.
It's a very challenging. That's why we are educating.
And that is why the law wants everybody to be interested and to support reporting and outing these situations.
I think we need more education. I mean, interesting, this law was passed in 2005, 2006. And I doubt whether many people...
There are institutions responsible for this.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, institutions.
yeah. And of course, we are here to support. And that is why we are discussing this today. Exactly. We have some questions coming in by way of social media.
My cousin lives in the city. She called my mother last year asking to have me brought to her to further my education. I was at this time enrolled in a school in the village and in class 6. She said she would get me into a good private school to further my education. When I arrived in Ghana, I discovered she had recently delivered twins. I have been at home for 9 months, no talk about my education. I do all the house chores and take care of the babies when she goes to work. I just want to go to school. My colleagues are gradually getting ahead of me. What do I do?
This is very interesting. As I said, how we arrange domestic helps and relatives helping us, you could fall a victim or within this law. I mean, if you are looking in terms of human trafficking, well, this person has been moved or transported from his area to a different area. The means some form of deception that they are going to use her for, take her to school. Meanwhile, it is better for you to take care of the child. And the third one is it exploitative. I mean, he's taking care of the house, taking care of the kids, no formal arrangement in terms of salary or payment. And so this could be a case of human trafficking.
I have to agree with you because you also observe that the consent that may have been obtained to have that child brought from the mother was actually obtained on some false pretenses. I mean, there was a clear, deliberate miscommunication or deliberate lie to have the child leave the mother's care and move to the town. Now, the expectation from what I just heard was that the child was to be enrolled in a private school and you cater for the person, but that's not what it is. And for 6 months, the person is now your labor force. Clearly, as we had earlier stated, I mean, it's not just prostitution. Any form of labor may also form part of the elements for human trafficking. And this clearly may be human trafficking.
There is a reason why the parents were spoken to. It is because this person who intended to use this child knew that this is a minor.
Yeah.
So when you sought consent from the parent, that consent is irrelevant considering the whole setup.
Yeah.
Even if the parent knew this was what you were going to use a child for, it still doesn't change the fact that this easily constitutes trafficking because you've moved the child from one place to the other. This is not paid labor. This is, I mean, class 6. What age is that? 9,
12, 13.
12.
So this is somebody who should be in school and who was already in school. You've gone to move this person just to use her without any payment. And the question is, can you even employ a 12-year-old even if you wanted to pay?
You couldn't have.
So there are just too many elements of it, even beyond trafficking, that requires some action. So anybody who's noticed this, seen this, is aware of this, ought to act timeously before you also get caught up.
Exactly.
It's a clear abuse of whatever power the person has over the child.
Yeah.
From the narration, he knows that there's something wrong with what is happening.
Yeah, of course. But the
But
reality
the child is
is
talking about school.
Ooh.
She just feels, or he just feels that they're being left behind.
exactly,
And colleagues are going.
And the reality is that she will not definitely know that she's being trafficked.
Yeah.
Yes, and also there's the issue of whether she even has access to people outside the household. We haven't considered that. It may be possible that they restrict her movement or his or her movement. They prevent the person from going out and all
that is
that.
why neighbors and people in society are enjoined to pay attention and to try to report any suspicion. Listen, it's better to err on the side of caution where you have suspicions.
Yeah.
Go there, let them clear the air, rather than to sit down thinking, oh, it's the other way rather, only to find out that some child is in distress and could have used your help.
A saving grace may be a nosy neighbor.
Yeah.
unfortunately in Ghana we use a mantra, be a dinifiase. And unfortunately in our countries, somebody will have reported by now that they have seen a child who is not going to school. And
that is very valid, because if this child was going to school, perhaps there's a teacher who could have been, spoken to, or that she could have consulted about the fact that, look, I just work at home and there's nothing
But
else.
ultimately, I think it may have to be reported to the police. Whoever will have to report so that she can be held.
Can we now look at filing arrest? Of course. So you've gone to report this. First of all, the victim, where can you file a complaint? Or whoever, like we just discussed, is this busybody for a good cause, who has seen this and is being a good citizen, trying to save somebody? Where can this person make the report? We mentioned the police station, we mentioned charge and all of that.
Social welfare.
But within which catchment area? Where the offender resides, one.
Yeah.
Where the victim also resides, could be another place. So if, for instance, the one using the person lives maybe in Tema and the victim lives in Accra, you can choose to report either in Accra or in Tema.
Yeah.
Then, of course, where the trafficking is occurring. So they both live in Accra and Tema, but then the work itself is done in Osu. You can report there as well. Or temporary places. So we're looking at situations where the victim is still in motion. So they haven't finally placed you where you should be, but there's this place that you sleep maybe for a few days in transit, and you suspect that this is it. You can report within that area as well. That is where the victim has left their normal place of stay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, in terms of the arrest, interestingly, of course, the police have the power to arrest when they suspect a crime has been committed, with or without a warrant.
Yeah.
Interestingly, again, the law says that as a citizen, when you believe or you have grounds to believe that somebody has committed this offense, enjoys on us to also arrest the person
and be citizens and not spectators. So,
well,
citizen arrest.
Yes. If you can arrest the person, immediately take the person to the police station.
Don't arrest and also keep in your house.
Yes.
Of course.
But if you can't arrest the person, our advice, go to the police, because some of these people...
So let's be careful with who we are arresting, by the way. It's not the victim that is being arrested.
It's the offender.
It's the offender.
Yeah. And some of these offenders, because it's a syndicate, they may have weapons and all of that. So you should be very cautious if you intend to make this arrest yourself. Otherwise, get the people who are trained to make the arrest, because they will have the right equipment to make the arrest.
Counsel, you agree with me that most offenses end or terminate on the death of whoever is sometimes the victim,
Yeah.
sometimes the perpetrator. Now, with this particular offense, if you were the victim and you died, your relative could still report this.
Yeah.
For as long as the offender is still alive and walking around, it can still be because, like we said from the very beginning, it usually is not a one person's crime.
It's a syndicate crime.
It's more than one. So definitely the victim, probably your organs were harvested and whatever, family now finds out and all of that. They can still make a report and then have these people pay for whatever crimes they have committed against other persons.
And it's also important to say that when prosecution has taken place, the perpetrator has been convicted, the law also gives rooms for compensation. The court can order the accused or the perpetrator to compensate the victim. And that is also a very important aspect of this law.
For me, what really interests me is the reintegration of the
and rehabilitation
of the victim. Yeah, because most of these victims will have some after effects, either psychologically, emotionally, it may even affect their health. So there's provision for counseling, rehabilitation, and reintegration. And this is very important. I noticed that in the law, it's supposed to be state funded.
Yeah.
We are not too certain if the state has provided the funds, but that is available to you. So if you're a victim and you see this and you make your report, be rest assured that the social welfare may provide some counseling to you and help you be reintegrated into society.
Or help you with some financial assistance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there's an obligation on the Ministry of Gender to provide support for victims in terms of retraining and rehabilitation of the victims. In fact, as you said, there's a fund that this law provides should be made available to help such victims. And I'm aware that we have certain shelters within certain areas,
localities for that
where victims are taken there for a period.
Yeah, and where there are children involved, you're looking at the best interest of the child, and sometimes they may even be placed in certain households in efforts at rehabilitating them and helping them to reintegrate and get back into society and leave behind what has happened. We could never finish this conversation because there are a lot of components to it, including how the police treats reports, how arrests could be done, what happens after somebody makes a complaint, the procedure and all of that. Perhaps we could do this another day, but for today, this all time will permit. I was joined today by Richard Odu-Mensah and Nana Boakye-Mensah Bonsu on the topic human trafficking. My name is Noella Seidu. This has been Law Express. Thanks for staying.